What's good, y'all? Rich Sosa back in a building with another banger. Now, first things first, before we go ahead and get started today, I gotta say thank God for another day and another opportunity. Now, as y'all can see from the looks of the title and the screen, today, man, I got a very special build in store for y'all. And today's build name is actually going to come out to a rebounding wing. Now, for comparisons, you can go ahead and think of this build as Dennis Rodman, Draymond Green, and even a little bit of, yes, Zach Randolph. But it's really all around with how I went about today's creation. The ones that can reach a 100 plus is going to be our perimeter defense, steal, block, and both our offensive with the defensive rebound. Now, as far as for animations on this build, I wanted to be sure that I was able to dribble a little bit and getting some of the more upgraded layup packages. And if it's your first time coming through, be sure to hit that sub button if you're new, smash that like button, turn on post notifications to be a part of the Rich family, and last but definitely not least, comment down TG for Thank God King Jesus and where you're tuning in from, and I most definitely will be sure to get back to y'all with a response. So the first thing that I want everybody to go ahead and start with is putting this build under the small forward position. As for the height, put this 2 ticks up to 6'9". Moving on to the weight, I'm going to leave this at 218. And then as for the wingspan, I decided to put this to 7'7". Now look, the numbers of the attributes, these are very important because they're going to be going hand in hand with the badges. So let's go ahead and get started. Now the first area that I'm going to get into is going to be the finishing. So go ahead and put that close shot up to a 56. 76 when it comes to our driving layup. Now as for the driving dunk, I want to be sure that we're at least able to get that posterizer badge on bronze. Now once we go ahead and adjust the vertical, that's going to make everything a lot better for this build all around. So I'm going to make sure that we come back to this area. Now as for the standing dunk, go ahead and put this to a 40. And that already is going to bring us up to a 41 overall just from upgrading the finishing. Now these will not be the final badges. I'm going to go ahead and show you what the build looks like once we complete the physicals. Normally I would go ahead and get into that first, but let's go ahead and see what the shooting is going to look like. Now as for the mid-range shot, I decided to go ahead and put this up to 76. Moving on to the three-pointer, I'm going to go with the 77. And then as for when it comes to the free throw, put this to a 71. And that right there is going to allow us to get at least 3 points on bronze. Now for the shooting, I think we have some pretty solid numbers to look at, especially if you do take into account adding in your takeover boost. That's at least a plus 10 towards this build. Now as far as for the mid-range and the three-pointer, I think we're going to be pretty effective all around in any game mode, especially to throw that in with the free throw. Now moving on to the playmaking side of things, I'm going to go with the pass accuracy of a 70. Now moving on to the ball handle, I'm going to go with the 73. And then to wrap everything up for the playmaking, go ahead and put the speed with ball up to a 72. Now right here, like I said, remember, these badges will not be final. Once we complete the physicals, this is really going to upgrade the build in a huge way. Now for the defensive end on the interior, I'm going to go ahead and put this up to a 72. Moving on to the perimeter, I decided to go with an 80. And then as for that steal, put this up to an 85. Now pretty overpowered when you look at the badges that we're able to unlock. As for the block, I'm going to go with an 87. And yes, all of these numbers are very specific, so as you can see, we go 1 tick off of the block and we go from bronze to silver or silver to bronze. Now as for the rebounding, go ahead and put the offensive all the way up to an 84. And to wrap everything up on the defensive, I'm going to go with the 92. Now that's going to allow us to get rebound chaser on gold. Now once we get into the physicals, I'm telling y'all, this is really my favorite part of each and every build. It gives you the best clue and idea of what a build is actually going to be able to do moving around the floor. So as for when it comes to the speed, I'm going to go ahead and put this up to a 78. For the acceleration, I like this at a 69. Moving on to the strength, put this to a 74. And then as for the vertical, I decided to go ahead and put this to a minimum threshold of an 80. Now to finish everything off with the stamina, go ahead and put this to a 92, and we should be able to get this exact badge count. Now as you can see, a lot of the categories are going to be changing, so let's start from the top down. Now as for this area on the finishing, The main badges that do catch my eye are going to be Gold Pro Touch with Giant Slayer. We're also able to get other badges like Spot Finder, and then of course Fearless Finisher has definitely been one of my favorites in the past and this year. Now if you look at other badges, we're also able to get Acrobat, Slithery, Pro Touch, even Bunny, a lot of different ones that are going to allow us to be effective on the inside. Now look, Scooper, we also get Float Game with Giant Slayer. Spin Cycle and Two Step have definitely been two of my favorite badges that I've used this year. And look, we're also able to get Posterizer and Precision Dunker with Slithery all on the bronze tier. Now I think that will allow us to get contact dunks. I have seen it, especially once you activate your takeover. Now to wrap everything up with the shooting, we're also going to be able to get blinders. Some important badges are going to be Green Machine, Space Creator. We get Guard Up, Midi Magician, Open Looks. I think this build has everything needed to be effective going into any game mode. Now if you want to make any adjustments, you can do so. One badge that I do like for the shooting is going to be Agent 3. Now let me know down below, what are your thoughts and opinion on this build? Would you make any changes? And if so, what would you do to make it even better? Now I think for all of the builds that I create personally, 71 is going to be the perfect number for my free throw rating. Now pick Kobe Bryant free throw if you are struggling. I've also heard Michael Jordan, but Kobe has been the most consistent for me throughout the years. Now for the playmaking side of things, badges that I like for the passing are going to be Break Starter. We get Relay Passer and Special Delivery. Now for the ball handle, this is where things get pretty special. I'm happy that we get Ankle Breaker with Blow By. Handles for days is very important, and then we get gold physical handles. Now this is probably the #1 badge on this build that I'm happy about. And then look, moving down a little bit more, we get Triple Strike on silver. And then to finish this area off, we get Hyperdrive, and Blow By matches it up perfectly with this badge. Now if you want to make any adjustments, go ahead and do it after we get this build name together. As for the defensive end, I like Silver Anchor. Also when it comes to that perimeter, we get Challenger with Clamps. Also going to be able to do a little bit of everything. I mentioned that earlier in the video. Now as for the steal, I like Interceptor, Glove, and Right Stick Gripper, at least on the silver tier. Now for that block, we get Anchor on silver, Gold Chase Down Artist with Pogo Stick, and then for that rebounding, Box Out Beast on silver. And I really do believe that this is one of the best setups for a build that you can make this year. No matter what game mode you take it into, I think you're going to be highly effective and needed. Now for the physicals, badges that I like from this area are Chase Down Artist and Hyperdrive. The acceleration, you see just how important each and every area is, especially because of the badges that it's affecting. Now look, something you want to take into consideration is going to be the +4 to 5 from buying your own boost. The boost that we get from equipping gear and also playing better throughout each game is going to give us a minor boost inside of each game mode. Now once you activate your takeover, that's at least a +10, just to give y'all an idea of what this build can do moving forward. So let's go ahead and check out the build name to make sure that we made it correctly. And if you followed every single step of the way, we should be getting these 3 comparisons. And now as y'all can see together, we were able to create none other than one of the first and best rebounding wing builds in NBA 2K24 on next gen. Now I just want to say thank y'all so much for the support, and those of you who made it this far. More so than anything, thank God for another day and another opportunity. Now like I said, if you are equipping any type of boost or attribute upgrades, make sure you add everything up, including the numbers on the left side of the screen, and you're going to be all set to go. Now look, before we get out of here, if it was your first time coming through, be sure to hit that sub button if you're new. Smash that like button. Turn on post notifications to be a part of the rich family. And last but definitely not least, comment down TG for Thank God King Jesus and where you're tuning in from. And I most definitely will be sure to get back to y'all with a response. And with all that being said though, I got one last thing to say. Rich out.